Hello and welcome to Kramer's Corner with the daily technical update. It is a little bit late today, but I was otherwise engaged. We'll start with Nvidia. Nvidia closed yesterday above its previous all-time highs, well above it indeed. There's minor divergence here on the RSI, but I think it will be cancelled. We will see a higher move here in the coming days. Despite the fact that the market is indicated a little bit lower. We're going to look at that in a bit. But as we can see here on the weekly chart on the Nvidia shares, well, it broke this triangle-like pattern. It's not the most perfect one, but the triangle-like pattern gives its energy and should give it the share price energy up to around 160 at least. There's massive divergence on the weekly RSI, but again, trust your friend. We are in a bullish trend, higher highs and higher lows. However, the Semiconductor Index is really struggling. Currently, it's actually pre-market here indicating at 227, so it's about around 0.7% lower. So the other semiconductors are, most of them at least, are struggling a little bit, can't really following Nvidia higher. So that is a little bit of a worry for the industry as such, but it also drags a little bit on the market, and we can also see that on the S&P 500 that closed almost unchanged yesterday. And if we're just looking at the pre-market, well then let's just zoom in a little bit more here. We can see pre-market, at least here symbolized with the US 500 CFD, is a little bit lower, about 0.5%. We are still in an uptrend, but it is stretched a little bit, as we can see here by the declining RSI. So we actually do have divergence now on the CFD, and let's just move that one over there so we can see it actually indicating you see lower lows there on the RSI, but it seems like we have a slightly divergence, but trend is still bullish. There is still potential for higher levels. Nasdaq 100 was fairly close to its all-time highs, but couldn't really follow through. But as long as it stays above 20,041, then I think we could see a push up there. Pre-market we are down 0.65%. But if it takes out 20,041 and close below, well, then there we are looking at 19,620. And let's just look at the US market, pre-market here. I have drawn these lines here. Maybe, just maybe, we are forming a rising wedge-like pattern, but it's still too early to call. However, there is no divergence on the RSI, indicating we're likely to see higher highs for Nasdaq 100 in the coming weeks. But do remember, we are in the earnings season, so I haven't really checked up what earnings that are planned for today, Tuesday the 22nd, but that can give quite a bit of volatility when earnings are being released. European markets are a bit down today, around 0.5%, 0.6%. Here we have the EUROSTOXX 50, very close to testing 49.07 support. But we have we talked about it yesterday, we have the 55, we have the 200, we also have the 100, giving some support here. And I think we will crawl higher in the coming days, but it really needs to take out this 49.90 level here for further upside potential. But we have lower lows, so it's really be cautious, and we had this massive bearish engulfing. So it seems like the European markets are not as strong as they should be. It really needs to take out the 49.90 and preferably also 5,000 on the EUROSTOXX. The DAX index, currently as we speak, we are below a minor support at 19,400. Seems like we have a correction unfolding. We have been warned about it a little bit with the divergence here on the RSI, declining RSI value. So we could see a dip down to 19,200, maybe a little bit lower if we're looking at the Germany 40 here. Well, you can also see it's really unfolding at the moment. I just need to adjust this a little bit here. There we are, currently at the 38.2 retracement at 19,381. Could dip a little bit lower, which I believe will happen. Let's just go back to the CAS index because that is the powerful one. The uptrend is intact as long as we stay above 18,911. So we are just in a correction phase, I believe, but still be cautious there. The Amsterdam index very close to once again testing 892 support. I think it will break it. If it does close below, well, then there could be potential down to 878. RSI still positive. No, it's not. Sorry, it didn't close above 60 threshold there. So it is actually negative. I think we'll see it sliding lower in the coming days and weeks. But it will fight for its life. 892 on AX. The CAC index 74.64 key support. Yes, it opened down lower here, but it closed above, and closing price the most important one. So if it does close below, well, then I think we will see it push down to 73.70, maybe 73.40 in that range. Swiss market rejected at 12,348. So didn't close this gap area here, which is key to close. Now it's testing 12,119 once again. I think it will bounce. We have the moving averages giving a little bit of support. We are in a positive sentiment, so I think it will bounce at least in the short term. But it needs to move back above 12,250 for another attempt to close that gap there. Euro dollar is sliding lower. Got rejected here at the 200 moving average a couple of times. Could get it back above it. So the bounce that was in the making here a couple of days ago, late last week, seems to be faltering, and there is potential to dip below the 108 level, possibly go down to around 107.77. Around that level, those lows over here from early August could be tested. If it takes out that, well, then there's even further downside potentially. I have these arrows here. This is a top-like pattern that was confirmed when it broke below 110, and the potential was down to around 108. So that seems to unfold that pattern. Euro dollar needs to move back above 108.75 for a correction, a bullish correction up towards 109.48. Euro sterling bouncing off after bouncing from 83 level after dipping a little bit below. I think it could test this upper falling trend line there, possibly bouncing up to around 84 once again. If it takes out 83.10 once again, well, then I think we'll see the downtrend resuming. We're still in a bearish trend, downtrend resuming, where there's potential down to around 82.30 level. On cable, sterling dollar. Sorry, I'm really used to saying cable. Also couldn't make it back above 131, not even close before resuming downtrend. I think we'll see it testing minor support here at 129.37. Currently testing the 100 moving average, or at least very close to, and the lower part of the cloud here area. So that could be a key. The RSI is in a negative sentiment and likely to pushing the cable a little bit low. It really needs to get back above 131 for upside potential. Dollar yen was forming this wedge-like pennant-like pattern yesterday. It wasn't confirmed at all. We just talked about it, but it bounced. Dollar yen bounced and got back above 149.40 and well above actually. And maybe now it's forming this rising channel-like pattern. Let's just remove the other one just to see where it's going. Positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence, indicating we could see higher highs. We are also currently above the cloud, so if that is also the situation at the end of the day, well, then we are looking at testing 151.85, possibly up to 153.15. The euro yen, well, likely to test 164 key resistance, but that also require that we get RSI back above 60 threshold. Needle needs to close above it. If they close above it, then I think we will see a push towards the 164. But there is a little bit of a pressure from the upper side with the 100 coming down, also 200. But for now, it looks like that 161 key support. On the Aussie yen, well, I've drew this triangle-like pattern. It's not the most perfect one, but it was just to give an indication. Currently, it is breaking bullish out, testing the 100 moving average. Key question, can it break higher and test the resistance here at 101.78 and the 61.8 retracement 102 and a change? That is a possibility since we are in a positive sentiment with RSI above 60 threshold. That just dipped below, but it didn't close below 40. So there is potential higher. We can also see the 55 moving average turning around here, likely pushing it higher. If also yen breaks back below 99.40, we could see a push down to 98. Sterling yen testing 196 at the moment. Actually spiked a little bit above earlier today. I think it will have another go. Also, we have the RSI still showing positive sentiment, indicating we could see a push higher in the coming days. And if it does, well, then we are looking towards 199.5 area. If it slides back, well, again, 191.70 key support here for downtrend, but I don't think we'll see that. It's not that strong anyway. Aussie dollar had tried to bounce. I'm not quite sure it will succeed just yet, but the 55 is dragging on it a little bit. But we have the 100 more or less flat, giving it a bit of a hard time. There's still a downside potential to around 66.40, 66.20 around this level here. There's still a risk for that. But if it takes out, and I think I will draw a horizontal line just to highlight it. If it takes out 67.25, well, then the next key will be 67.60. Dollar Canada is the correction was smaller than expected. New push to above 138.50 could be seen, very close to doing that. We have some resistance up in this area here from the previous peaks at 138.90 towards 139.47-ish, and that also is supported by the RSI projection levels. There is currently RSI divergence. You can see the values here are lower than these, so that is a little bit of a worry if you're long dollar Canada. But I think it will push higher here in the coming days. Also, we can see on moving averages they are now on the rise. So underlying they will push it higher. But if it takes out 137.45, well, then we have a larger correction lower. Sterling Canada, really hard to read at the moment, maybe forming this triangle-like pattern here. That should be observed still. Key support 176.80, but look out for a break of either bullish or bearish, a break of this triangle-like pattern. EURUSD, well, it looks like it is currently breaking out of the triangle-like pattern here, or the lower rising trend line, but key will be if it breaks below 93.30. If it does that, then we're also likely to see RSI dipping below and closing below this 40 threshold, meaning there are likely lower levels in store for EURUSD. If it bounces back, well, then we will see a push to test this upper falling trend line. What is interesting is that the 55 moving average is actually currently rising, so it's not a clear picture at the moment, to be honest. Dollar Swiss, knocking on this 786 retracement at 86.69. Will we get a correction or will it push higher? RSI says we are going to push higher with positive sentiment, and there is room up to around 87.5 in this region around this, maybe only 87.30. But if it starts sliding low, well, correction in the store for down to at least 85.67. So a little bit cautious there to either side. Dollar index pushed to 200% of this corrective phase here, of this last leg down there, at 103.83, just a little bit more. I think there's more in store for it. We could see a push and to touch 104, maybe even 104.25 in an exhaustive move, but we are getting more and more ripe for a correction. But I need the confirmation. If it takes out the lows from yesterday at 103.25, well, then I think we'll see that correction unfold. Gold is pushing higher, and it's actually reached my first target at 27.36 and a little bit more. There could be more in store for gold. It is a little bit stressed, and we can see here there's also still RSI divergence on the daily chart. But as mentioned, there is further upside potential here with a weekly chart. And there is no divergence on the RSI on the weekly chart, indicating we're likely to see higher levels. So I think we could see gold pushing higher towards 2,800. There will be corrections, no questions about that. So look out for potential trouble and reversal pattern. There was a little bit warning yesterday, but for now it still looks fairly very strong. If it suddenly turns around later today and we get a negative candle here today, then expect a correction. The silver spot also pushing higher, and as mentioned yesterday, there is a potential higher towards the 35.40 resistance level. Currently testing this the lower part of the resistance level at 34.40, but I think we'll push higher. There's no divergence on the RSI. There's a little bit here on the weekly, but I think we will see it pushing higher in the coming days and weeks. Copper is struggling at the moment to gain some rebound momentum. Really needs to get back above 450 for further upside towards 470, 480 level. If it takes out the lows here at 429.35, well, then we could see it dipping lower towards around 420 level. On the crude oil, WTI has bounced from this falling trend line here. And if it can get back above 72.41, I think we will see it resuming uptrend. The RSI is still positive, so that is indicating that it's likely that scenario to play out. That we'll see it pushing towards previous peaks here earlier this month, around 77.60, 78.46 in this region here. There's still very strong resistance up there. If it takes out the lows here from a couple of days ago, the 18th of October, 68.72, well, downtrend will be confirmed. Same picture on Brent, of course. If it closes above 75.15, I think we'll see it pushing higher towards 80 and 81.5 level. Yields, the US 10-year Treasury yield didn't correct as much as we expected before it resumed uptrend and taking out the 414 resistance. Now there's potential up to the region around 429, 430 even, and maybe even higher. Since this is not the strongest one, there could be further upside potential to around 450 even. So that is something to watch for US 10-year yields to reverse this. Well, then it needs to move back below 399. And if we just quickly looking at the Treasury note, the future, well, then we can see it's currently around the 111.13 support, possibly down to 110.18 could be seen here in the coming days. The 2-year Treasury yield, excuse me, is once again very close to testing 4%. I think it will break it, and I also think it will take out 406 resistance, and then there's suddenly no resistance until 437. I'm not quite sure we'll get all the way up there, excuse me, but up to around 4.25 should be in the cards. And also here, if we're looking at the Treasury note, we can get an idea what's going on. Currently, the 2-year Treasury note is trading around 103.8, just dipping a little bit below the support there. 103 could be tested. If it takes out that, well, then there's no support until around 102.5 around in this region here. Also, EuroBunds, despite the ECB lowering the interest rate, has, as we speak, broken below the 132.73 support and is likely to drop lower towards 131.62, where there's some support. RSI negative, supporting the bearish view. And also here, if you say we have a double top-like pattern, well, that should give a potential lower, and we can add Fibonacci to it to give an idea what we're talking about. Well, down the region here, 132, but 131.28 could also be seen. for EuroBund to reverse this trend. It really needs to get back above 134.25. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day. Talk to you again tomorrow.